Testing for YouTube. Testing 1, 2, 3.
All right, welcome everyone. We will call to order our regular meeting of council and start by acknowledging and recognizing that we work, live, and play in the city of Port Alberni, which is situated on the unceded territories of the Sajat and Hubacheset First Nations. We have an agenda in front of us. Council, are there any late items to add? I do. Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to add toilets to our agenda, just an update, and also Johnson Road. I'd like to talk about Johnson Road.
Did you say toilets?
I did say toilets.
Adding toilets and Johnston Road to items 11 and 12 under new business. Any other items from council? Seeing none, any items from our corporate officer?
No items.
Then would somebody like to move approval of our agenda?
With the changes.
With the changes, moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Any discussion? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And adoption of minutes, we have minutes from the special meeting and regular meeting held on June 9th, 2025. Move to adopt from Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Dame. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried, none opposed. We have no delegations, no unfinished business, and no staff reports. So on to bylaws. Item number 1, we have OCP and zoning bylaw amendments for 6123 and 6151 Russell Place. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So Council is being asked to consider both an OCP and zoning amendment application tonight to create a new P3 campus care zone to facilitate some additional housing on the Rainbow Gardens complex site. The West Coast Native Health Society, who operates Rainbow Gardens, had submitted a proposal for some additional housing with the intent being to provide some affordable subsidized units for seniors' independent living. The applicant intends to apply to BC Housing for project funding, but the bylaw amendments would need to be required to potentially enable any future development on that site. These applications were referred to the Advisory Planning Commission in October of 2024. Council passed, and they did, the APC did pass a motion to recommend moving forward. Council did consider first and second reading in March of 2025, and a public hearing was held on May 12th, 2025. So the proposed amendments would be amendments to both the OCP and the zoning bylaw. And essentially, they would align the OCP and the zoning bylaw essentially to permit housing to be built on institutional land where care facilities located. It would enable affordable housing to be built in line with the city's 2024 interim housing needs report, including rentals for people who are living independently but are expected to require care in the future. It would rezone the Rainbow Gardens complex to enable potential future development of an affordable seniors housing rental housing project. And it would provide a zone option for future care facilities to potentially co-locate with rental housing. So the future development that is being proposed for Rainbow Gardens site is consisting of some low to moderate income seniors housing on a portion of the open space at 6123 Russell Place. It's a 3-story apartment building that would contain 35 one-bedroom purpose-built rentals. As I indicated before, a public hearing on these zoning amendment or the OCP and zoning amendment applications was held on May 12th. The full minutes on the agenda are on the agenda, but a summary of the concerns that were heard was a concern of the scale and density of the proposed development, lack of public transit and sidewalk access, concerns around traffic safety issue on Russell Street and the intersection of Highway 4, removal of green space and lack of general park space, reduced parking and traffic congestion concerns, commercial vehicles making deliveries to the property, potential disturbance during construction, and concern for tsunami risk for the evacuation of residents. Given the location of this property, the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure is required to approve the zoning amendments if it moves forward. It was referred to the Ministry of Transportation, and they have no concerns in regards to the proposed amendments. As I had indicated before, the city's housing needs report and data inventory has certainly identified the extreme challenges for seniors housing, and especially affordable seniors housing, as a greater need in the community. Up to 15% of senior households experience core housing need, and a total of 1,220 dwelling units, all dwelling units are needed over the next 5 years to meet Port Alberni's immediate housing needs. This includes 176 units of deep subsidies and supportive rental and 206 units of non-market rental. So this application is before council to consider a third reading of the two bylaws, and they would enable a new zone called P3 Campus of Care Zone to be established on this property. I would indicate that before council considers third reading of the OCP and zoning amendment, the council consider adopting the minutes of the public hearing as a first step, and then council could consider third reading of the two bylaws if you wish. And I'd be pleased to answer any clarification questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Solda.
Just a quick question regarding, first of all, I just want to say there's 50 plus on a waiting list for this housing if it does go through. But I do have concerns on Highway 4. So the Ministry of Transportation, I mean, since it is a highway, if there's any issues, they would have to figure that out, any issues going from that area onto Highway 4.
So the ministry has, this application has been sent to the ministry. They have not raised any concerns, and therefore they have not made any subject conditions to their approval.
Okay, so, which is great, other than the accessibility onto the Highway 4, but a lot of our highways, we have issues regarding accessibility onto River Road anyways. And regarding the buses coming up, the city bus, I believe, Madam Mayor, you talked to transportation on that one at one point, and I'll just leave that for you to bring it up if you choose to do so. Otherwise, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to say the West Coast Native Healthcare Society, I think they're a great organization that provided a much needed services of low-cost housing for seniors in our community. And the people on this society, they all have really good hearts and have worked extremely hard for the last few years. And I really felt at the public hearing that they were listening to some of the concerns that the neighbors expressed. One of the comments was, and I remember this as well. They were promised a gazebo, community gardens, and it was going to be a gathering place, not just for the residents, but the people in the neighborhood. And so I'm going to encourage you to try and follow up on that to make people in the neighborhood want to be part of this. So make it a real community gathering place. And another suggestion, if I'm sure somebody is listening somewhere, that there was a couple of concerns expressed about Halloween. Maybe this society can take charge, come to the city and ask for permission to close the roads off, between the hours of, say, 5 and 9 for Halloween night, and really try and promote Halloween activities. Become part of the neighborhood, become part of the community, and I think you have a lot more buy-in. So just a couple of suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from council? Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the minutes of the public hearing on May 12th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
I'll keep going if you want. I move that the official community plan amendment bylaw number 5118 be read a third time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Solda. Discussion? Well, I'm just going to comment that I actually have felt extremely uncertain on this one, and I have fully supported every other stage of the development at Rainbow Gardens. as they have progressed through the different processes that we've gone through on that, from the original sale of the park and the development that happened there to the subsequent building that was built a couple of years ago. And I think every single one of those developments and expansions to what they offer there has been well worth it, although not without, inconvenience to the neighborhood. I think overall they've been well needed, much needed developments of seniors housing in our community. I really struggle with this one. It, in my opinion, just feels like too much density. Or too much density for the location, too much density for that space. And I really have a hard time because a commitment was made to building a neighborhood park, not like playground park, but building a neighborhood space. And I know that members of council at the time voted for the original development on the parkland that the city sold as a result of that commitment. And so I really am uncertain on this one. I actually spent a lot of time thinking about this at the public hearing, after the public hearing, and over this past weekend, just trying to decide if this is an appropriate amount of density to put, like, would we approve this building or this zoning change if we knew this was the original plan for the lands? I don't think so. So I'm struggling with it, and I'm curious to hear more of council's opinions. I really want to see Rainbow Gardens do more. I think that there's no question they provide excellent care and are providing something that's very needed in our community. But I struggle with this one because we are fitting it in to make it work. And though housing is of the utmost importance in our community, this is a lot of density and a lot of buildings on one reasonably small space. So curious to hear more from council on thoughts. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to exercise my vote, but since you brought it up, you're not alone. And I think I've mentioned the density issue at the old Calgary School as well. But this is a much smaller footprint and a bigger. There are more people in such a smaller footprint, I guess is what I'm trying to say, such a small little area. So you're not the only one that struggles with the density issue, Madam Mayor. What I will admit, though, is the things like the evacuation plan for tsunami and stuff like that was addressed by Mr. Appleton and the crew there. Very happy to see that. Transit, of course, that's something we'd have to worry about. But again, we've got a kind of an idea of where the main again, and I go back to the public hearing, and I can't see a bus going in there and trying to loop around, and that when the delivery trucks have a problem, they have to go up back into the old cul-de-sac and then drop off their goods. So I just want to let you know, Madam Mayor, that you're not alone when it comes to this. I just feel that the density is too much for such a small area, but understanding the need for seniors housing and the need that's out there.
Thank you. Councillor Dame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, and I'll echo some of that as well. I think that, we're a more, I'd say a two-story building, something that was a little more in line with what you would expect to see on the outskirts of town. I would feel a lot more comfortable when I compare it to some of the other development proposals that we've looked at recently. A lot of my support for those came due to the location and how it made sense, how it was the proximity to services and to all of those needs. And so for this one, I mean, as much as I love to see the housing, which our community very much needs, it's that challenge of trying to weigh it against so many other factors. And this one, I agree with yourself and Councillor Mealy that this has been a tough one that I feel like could support a certain version of it, but as it is being presented, I'm struggling to put my support behind it.
Yeah, and thank you for those comments. I have no issue with density. In fact, I think we need to build a lot more density in our community in general to address the housing needs that we have. I know we can't do it without increasing our density. I think my concern comes from the fact that we have already drastically increased the density in this neighborhood and on that lot specifically, and it just feels like it's going to be even more out of place. So I right now don't even know how I'm going to vote, which is very not like me. I usually have pretty firm opinions on things, but I am concerned that this is not the right place for this, and we are looking to try to support it because we know it's a need in our community and not necessarily because it's good land use planning for that area, which is something we always have to balance. You know, a development is not always going to be perfect, but it does address an important need in our community. And so, you know, we give some leeway and we make some adjustments to account for, you know, that things, there may be better locations, however, this location works as well. But in this case, I'm just struggling with the level of density that we have already placed on that piece of land. Councillor Patola and then Councillor Solda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the matters associated with this development that has been mentioned both by yourself and Councillor Haggard is the park issue. I was not on council when this original piece of property was sold and the discussions of the park occurred. In my knowledge or recollection, which could be incorrect, but at that point in time, the covenant or requirement for the society to provide a park space was specifically discussed and removed from the development proposal at the time. So although many people on council and in public heard the word park, that park has never come to fruition because it was never a requirement, although certainly somebody could have done that voluntarily. It seems to me that that issue may be part of the answer to the imbalance of density in the area is by creating a park. And I'm not sure, I know we could do that. I'm not sure who else could do that and whether it would solve the problems. But it seems to me that even though it was dealt with and resolved a long time ago by not being included, it has continued in, at least in the public sphere, as being a concern that continues. So I'm not sure if that is a solution or not. Certainly it is a needed facility, and I also think that the practicalities of increasing the density there aren't movable in that would the society simply create the same thing somewhere else? There's value in the co-location of that with the society, and certainly not all of the existing facilities are going to be moved to another place. So I agree, an inconvenient density, I'm not sure that it's not a preferred density, but I'm not sure that it's the worst option of those that are presenting themselves.
Thank you for that, and absolutely, there is so much benefit to the project for the co-location, and that is a part of the decision for land use planning as well. Because you mentioned the park, and I previously mentioned it, I'll be happy to explain what actually happened. It was 10 years ago, and it was not that there was a covenant for them to build a park, which was removed. It was never a requirement of Rainbow Gardens to build the park. However, Rainbow Gardens publicly committed to building the park. They stated at the public hearing, and they stated prior that they would build the park because we were removing the playground at the time that was there when we sold that land. Councillor Dennis Sauvé, at the time we approved the sale and went through the process for the rezoning, Councillor Dennis Sauvé made a motion to enter a contractual agreement with Rainbow Gardens that they would build the park prior to completion of their development. Rainbow Gardens said that would be a problem for them because they needed to prioritize the development first. And of course, it was funded by BC Housing, so they couldn't commit that they were going to immediately build the park. They didn't have funds to immediately build the park. So I spoke against that and was quoted in the paper, which people still show me, where I said, I have full confidence and trust in Rainbow Gardens to build this park. It may not be before the development is completed. It's not going to be a playground. I was on the board of Rainbow Gardens at the time, or a liaison to the board through the city. And I said, I don't want to stop the development from happening, which is much needed seniors care in our community, if we can't get the park space built on the same timeline. So I encouraged council to vote against that, and council did vote against it. But Rainbow Gardens stood up even at that meeting and said, we are committed to building the park. So it's a really complicated issue. And this has come up lots of times over the years where they've still expressed an issue or an intention to build a gathering space. And for like full clarity, it was not intended to be a playground. It was intended to be gazebos and walking paths and a garden that everyone in the neighborhood could utilize. But Rainbow Gardens has continually expressed their intent to do that. And I think we've been extremely reasonable that there wasn't a requirement. It was their best honest intention, and I think it continued to be until there was an opportunity to put a building there instead. And they probably weighed the benefit of building where they can provide more seniors housing or park. And rightly so, they want to provide more seniors housing. And I think they're right to want to do that. So it is a complicated issue, though, because of how it happened, because there was a commitment made, and because council considered trying to put it into a written agreement, and some of us did not support that. Yeah, so it's just not as black and white, unfortunately, as it wasn't a requirement. There was a clear commitment made. But I think today our decision does have to be about not the park, because we ultimately hold a lot of ability to put a park in that neighborhood if we want to. I think we should. There was another one removed a couple of years ago, obviously, the small park at the back of the neighborhood. And I think that whether it be a playground or, you know, enhanced trail improvement in the area or whatever it might be, I think the city should, you know, move forward with our commitment to do something in that neighborhood. On the decision for today, I think we really need to think about if this is the right place for this level of density or not. And it is a tough decision. I agree completely. There is so much value to having more seniors housing in our community, and specifically on this lot. I do just struggle with the frontage of that being a three-story building with the one story behind it and the rest of how the lot has been planned, unfortunately. Councillor Solda.
So, Madam Mayor, you summed up very well and summed the whole thing. So going even further back, just the park, yes, it was a gathering space. It wasn't going to be a park. The city also, when it wasn't going to happen, the city also talked about the space that you were talking about that was decommissioned as a park, or we have property in that area to take a chunk of that land and make it a park too. There was that discussion. So with what's happening at this moment, because I represent the city as a non-voter on Rainbow Gardens, and I've been there for many, many, many years, and I agree regarding the value of having this particular building built, is Rainbow Gardens is not looking at other parts of the community because they want to keep the complex of care in the centralized. So eventually, they can offer some services to each apartment that they have, right? So if somebody wants cleaning, or if they want food brought to them, that can be offered. And then, of course, there's different stages, of course, for complexity as we get older. So that is where that is being looked at. Yeah, and the residents at the apartment that's there now existing, there has been nothing but positive to it. And yeah, I just wanted to bring that, how that park and all that happened. It wasn't a park, it was just where a gathering space. And anyways, that's my comments.
Thank you. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not to rehash the issue and use that same word, park, again, but I'm just wondering, through you to the director, if perhaps this is a situation where amenity charges would be appropriate to collect and put towards the building of a park. Having said that, I totally understand that these types of facilities are often the results of restricted funding. So I wouldn't want to kibosh the whole project just on that suggestion, but it's not a suggestion, it's just a question.
So currently, as council may be aware, we don't have a community amenity bylaw, or have we not, there's never been a policy or any guidance in our OCP about what that might look like. So there's been no discussions with this project applicant or other project applicants on entering into a voluntary community amenity agreement.
Councillor Solda.
And just one further thing, can I remind this council that we've had other issues regarding density, and one just recently was the Redford School. And there was a lot of the residents that came out and talked about it, and we've had other areas too, but that was just the most recent one, and it was a really contentious. So I just wanted to remind council.
Absolutely. Other comments? Councillor Mealy and then Councillor Haggard.
Just very short, I apologize, I misspoke. I said Calgary School, I meant Redford School earlier, so thank you, Councillor Solda.
When you said Calgary School, I was like, wow, there's really not a lot of density there. So I'm surprised you'd have issue with that. Bunch of single-family homes. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate you saying that you're in a quandary, you don't know your vote, because I thought about this all weekend as well, and I don't know how to vote either, because seniors housing is so needed in our community, and I've driven by that area a few times, and I just can't picture this being on that lot. It just, I don't know, I just can't see it. And I just don't think it's gonna fit in with the neighborhood.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Okay, seeing no comments. Third reading has been moved and seconded. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion defeated. So, moving forward, I guess a question to our director. Is there an opportunity to go back to the applicant to discuss lower density? Or what would a normal process typically be here?
At this stage, council has defeated the OCP amendment. Council has not considered third reading of the zoning amendment yet. Thinking off the top of my head, council could defeat it, and that means the application is done and the property owners would have to reapply sometime in the future. Or council could direct staff to, I would guess they could, I'm trying to think of another direction, is not prepared to, you could defeat, I don't know if you need to defeat it or whether you're directing staff to go back to the applicant to amend their development application at a lower density. That will require a new submission of plans and a new public hearing before, and then what you would basically do is you'd have to undo the readings of the current bylaw, that type of thing. So that, and we'd probably need to consider the OCP again if council wanted to potentially move forward. But essentially is you're not considering third reading and you're directing staff to go back to potentially work with the applicant on an amended development. And that would then, we would then come forward if there was any kind of agreement with the applicant could just say no. And then if there was an agreement with a revised proposal, that would require revised plans, revised bylaws we would have to bring forward, and another public hearing process. Or also you could defeat the rezoning and then the applicant could consider reapplying in the future for a different development proposal. You know, there's still would be a strong level of work that would have to be redone, whether they're starting with a whole new application or whether we're having to go back and essentially what council's saying is you're not supportive of what the proposal is being put in front of you.
Thank you for that. So Council, I'm going to move that we direct staff to work with the applicant to see if there's an interest in moving forward with a lower density application. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Discussion. Councillor Solda and then Councillor Patola.
Just recognizing from discussions at the Rainbow Gardens meetings, the money, when it went through the zoning and different aspects, the cost of going back to the drawing board, and now they're going back to the drawing board again. It's just too bad it wasn't done the first time, and talked about, because it's just the cost that could have gone to a building. So I'm just putting that there.
Thank you. Councillor Patola.
Yeah, I am concerned that this decision increases costs significantly, probably more than a park would cost. But I'm also concerned at I'm going to say the optics of this decision. And I'm putting it that way because I don't mean to imply any thought process on anyone's part. But I note that this council has approved in the past, this council approved in the past a number of buildings that densify areas and significantly affect the overall visual effect because of that densification. And those have all been approved in areas that are less fancy neighborhoods, if I can put it that way. This Westport Place is known to be one of the desirable areas of Port Alberni with single-family residences, large lawns, and it's a newer development. And it's in this area that the visual change is not being supported on the basis of density. And I just wanted to raise that because I have concerns that different neighborhoods might be treated differently by this council. And so in asking the applicant to redesign their plans, I'm just taking this opportunity to state that I hope council is open to as minimum variations as possible to achieve a different density. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Dame.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I think that that's certainly something that we always need to consider in terms of where sort of those subconscious biases, tendencies might want to creep in there. In my earlier comments, I was very specific not to mention the visual aspect of it because I don't feel that that's playing a role in my personal considerations. I think that we're talking about density and appropriate locations for housing in terms of proximity to, numerous issues have been raised about the challenges with transit in that location. And I think that it's sort of trying to diminish the argument down to, well, the building would look big and ugly is not painting the full picture of all of the different considerations we've had to include in this. And I just want to be careful that Councillor Patola's comments, certainly while valid and worth self-reflection on, certainly don't feel like they reflect my personal considerations of the situation. And I would never want there to be a message out there that our council is catering to wealthier neighborhoods or anything like that. I think that some of the other neighborhoods where we have approved housing, I wouldn't want to assume what their income level is. I think that they're probably fairly well off as well in comparison to many other community neighborhoods in our community. So yeah, point taken. But I think that there's a lot to this, and we all expressed that this was a very challenging situation. And like many things we do, it we do the very best to make a decision that, and whether or not we made the right one, it's not always an objective, fact. So, yeah, I just want to make those comments.
Absolutely. I think that's a very important point. Couldn't agree more. And I just want to state that I have personally voted in support of two development applications on the Rainbow Gardens land, both that have been extremely contested by the neighborhood, as well as the voting in support of the land sale. So I don't think that it is an accurate representation to say that we have listened more to wealthier neighborhoods as we would have then listened to this neighborhood on the last applications. I think it's our job to look at the whole picture when it comes to land use planning, and take everything into consideration to determine whether it's an appropriate change we're looking to make or not. I think this is actually the first housing development application I've ever voted against on council. And I think that personally, that speaks to the work that our staff does to really make sure they are bringing forward quality applications and work with the developers with the applicants to ensure that, that back and forth goes to making supportable applications in the long run. And I know they don't always have full control over that. But I think this one was just a very challenging decision. And I do hope that Rainbow Gardens can build more in the community. But I just can't picture that level of density added to the site. Councillor Mealy and then Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, well, I appreciate this is your first. This is my third, at least, that I can count that I've voted against on this council. And just for the mere fact of it's got to be, is it the best use of the land and how will it affect the neighborhood? And I just can't get past, sticking 5 stories at Redford, let's say, but council has passed that. I think it was Athol was the other one, and council has passed that, and I respect that. But I'd like to stay committed to consistency here and just say, I just don't think it's the right use. And I think that it could be less density and I would consider it, but I just don't think, if you can drive up there and envision it, like I remember when it was it Riverbend School up in that way, and it was all trees, and that was my playground. That was up in that area. And, it's a great development up in Westport Place, but would this take away from the neighborhood? Doesn't matter what neighborhood it is, just would it take away from the neighborhood? And I think that extra density would. And I think we owe it to the neighbors to at least go back to the developer and say, can we make something work that's not 3 stories high and has all these, and once again, understanding that there is a need for housing in this community for our seniors.
Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Councillor Dane responded much more eloquently than I'm going to. I was greatly offended by that remark from Councillor Patola. That never entered my thought process. If they had come forward with a 3-story development, I probably would vote yes, but a 5-story development, I just don't feel is appropriate for that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have a motion to direct staff, and sorry, I just want to note that I think you've mixed up your numbers there, Councillor Haggard.
It says right here 5-story multi-residential.
No, it's 3-story.
Oh, it says 5-story in here.
That's the existing building.
Existing.
Existing building is 5 stories.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to direct staff to go back to the applicant and see if they are interested in bringing forward a lower density application or amending the application to lower density. Are there any further comments? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to item number 2, which is utility bylaw amendments.
So, Madam Mayor, today we have the changes that we're making for the utility bylaw amendments. And it's interesting to note that what we're doing is we're moving the schedules from the bylaws into the fees and charges to have that consolidated fees and charges. So technically the request is just to remove those schedules from the water, sewer, and the solid waste bylaw. That being said, there was some cleanup in the bylaws and then renumbering. So we do have the bylaws here in a cleaned up version from the prior so that we can move forward with these updated bylaws. And just noting that the waters and sewer, these were identified as far as the budget in the 2025, 2029 increases. So they are just set based on what the increases are in the financial plan. And that goes the same with the solid waste. So today you'll also have the fees and charges bylaw that's coming forward next to address the changes to the rates for water, sewer, and solid waste. So with that, if there's any questions from council, I'm here to answer those.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll make a motion that I move that Waterworks bylaw number 5131, 2025 be now introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Dame. Any comments? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that Waterworks bylaw number 5131, 2025 be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
I also move that Waterworks bylaw number 5131, 2025 be read a third time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
May I continue, Madam Mayor? Thank you. I move that sewer connection and regulation bylaw number 5132, 2025 be now introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Any comments on this portion? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
I'll move that the sewer connection regulation bylaw number 5132, 2025 be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
And I will move that sewer connection and regulation bylaw number 5132, 2025 be read a third time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
If I may, thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that solid waste collection and disposal bylaw number 5120-1, 2025 be now introduced and read a first time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that solid waste collection and disposal bylaw number 5120-1, 2025 be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
And one more time, Madam Mayor, I move that solid waste collection and disposal bylaw number 5120-1, 2025 be read a third time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And item number 3, fees and charges amendment bylaw number 5125-1.
Mayor, through to council, we have amendment to the fees and charges bylaws. The Director of Finance summarized with the addition of a new schedule for building fees and charges. That coming out of the building bylaw number 5077.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from council? Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that fees and charges bylaw number 5125-1, 2025 be now introduced and read a first time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that fees and charges bylaw number 5125-1, 2025 be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the fees and charges bylaw number 5125-1, 2025 be read a third time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And on to item number 4, Kitsuxis Dike Repair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here today to discuss funding requests for some emergency repair to the Kitsuxis Dike system. Quick background to this, the dike was constructed in the late 60s. Ongoing inspections last year identified in November there was an area of the dike on the west bank that was beginning to fail and erode and slump into the Kitsuxis Creek. ongoing maintenance and ongoing inspections throughout the winter identified that this was getting worse over time. We have taken the steps to reach out to the Ministry of, pardon me, I just want to get the right one here. British Columbia Dike Maintenance Act. I didn't list it in here, but the appropriate ministry within the province to see if we could do emergency repairs immediately. We had an inspector come out on site who in turn instructed us that this needed to be repaired. However, it was not considered emergency under their classification, and therefore we needed to go through the proper permitting and design process. So the request today is to provide funding to do so. You'll see in my report that I've requested $42,000 for the consultant that's required to be engaged to complete the rehab design, as well as the cost for completing the actual construction remedy work, which is estimated at $133,000. The timing of this is a bit sensitive in that we need to complete this before the next rainy season, as well as in conjunction with the environmental regulations meeting the fish window of August through September of this year. So with that said, we are requesting this funding to come from contingency funding, and I'm happy to answer any questions council may have on this.
Thank you very much for the report. Are there questions? Councillor Solda.
It's not a question. I'm just going to move that the council amend City of Port Alberni 2025-2029 financial plan bylaw number 5123, 2025 by allocating $175,000 towards repairs of the Consissus Dike with funding from line 29911 contingency funds and create a capital project Consissus Dike repair with a budget of $175,000.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Dame. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just through you to Mr. McDonald. So the work is going to be done during the August to September timeline. Is that correct? Because of the fish window? Sorry, just want to make sure I'm...
Through the chair, yes. Thank you for the question, and that is correct. The work will be completed this August and September.
Okay, and will that, through you, Madam Mayor, will that impact the parking, the excess parking behind the Van Al Ford dealership and that for the excess boats, just because it is the heavy fishing time? I know it says the west along the West Bank, but I didn't know exactly where it was and if staff or the city crews are going to have to take up that space.
Yes, thank you for the question through the chair. Current construction methodology indicates that we shouldn't have great impact on any of the parking requirements. There will be some temporary grading done to get the material and equipment in, but they should not directly impact parking. So.
Thank you very much. Councillor Solda?
Madam Mayor, although it's in our report, but people out on out in the public, could we, the contingency fund, how much do we have in it and what will be the amount left?
Through the chair, yes, thank you for the question. You'll see at the back end of this report, I believe the current contingency funding with this removed will still have a balance of $15,000 afterwards.
So in that particular fund, how do we repopulate that? How does more dollars go into it? So just so the public, because I worry about our contingency funds at this moment, and I know we have to fix this problem, so.
Madam Chair, what we do have is an annual allocation in the financial plan. So we do tax requisition for that. Currently, we don't have like a contingency reserve, but we put $300,000 in general annually into this reserve, and we used 110 for the QP ratification, and that was passed at what's upcoming also in the financial plan for the amendment. But second to that, this one for the 190, so 175, sorry.
So my next question would be, do we foresee, obviously this is an emergency to get this done, but there might be other emergencies. So I worry about that. So if it's only 15,000 left, then what?
We always have the ability within council's discretion where needed, if there was an emergency, to borrow from most of our reserves. So while the contingency would be depleted following this project, this is what contingency is for, and we still would have access to funds if we needed for other projects. Other comments? Okay. Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And item number 5, Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw, number 5086-2, 2025. And this is another recommendation from the Committee of the Whole meeting. Councillor Dame, would you like to read this, or I'll let Rosalind speak first if you'd like.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just like you said, it is an amendment to our reserve establishment bylaw. So we have 3 reserves that are proposed within the bylaw. So our lease, asset management lease reserve, local transit fund reserve, and the heritage fees collected for historic infrastructure projects to go into the McLean's Mill project reserve as well.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was getting tired of seconding motions, so it's nice to make some for once. I move that Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw number 5086-2, 2025 be now introduced and read a first time.
Moved by Councillor Dame, seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Dame.
And I move that Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw number 5086-2, 2025 be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Dame, seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Dame.
And I move that Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw number 5086-2, 2025 be read a third time.
Moved by Councillor Dame, seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And item number 6 on our agenda is Argyle Street 1st to 3rd redevelopment project, also from our Committee of the Whole meeting. Mike, go ahead. A little overview, and then we'll go to council.
Sure. So this project is part of council's strategic priority. I know that grant funding had been applied for many years ago and was not successful. Project helps with our CSO, our combined sewer overflow, upgrades our water and sewer and our streetscape. And I know that we discussed this quite a bit at the Committee of the Whole, so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Haggard, would you like to make this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that council amends City of Port Alberni 2025 to 2029 financial plan bylaw number 5123, 2025 by allocating $6,375,000 towards redevelopment of Argyle Street between 1st and 3rd Avenue with funding from the General Fund, Water Infrastructure Capital Reserve, and Sewer Infrastructure Capital Reserve in the amount of $2,125,000 each in the 2026 capital plan.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Haggard. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Dame. Discussion. Councillor Solta.
So, Madam Mayor, I still have concerns regarding the parking taking away the parking spaces. I know backing up and different things. I just have concerns. And that area right now, when it's on a busy day, you can't find parking. So when we go into parallel parking, it's going to be from angle, it's going to be really tight. So my concerns is that, and I don't know if we can fix that, but I'm just and it's not just me, it's the businesses down there. They have concerns too. And I just kind of wish I thought we had contacted the businesses, had the dialogue, and I know they know about it, but it would have been great to have that dialogue with them. Those are my concerns.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, thanks for those comments. I think parking in general in the city needs to be looked at, and where parking should be and shouldn't be. And I think in this area, we did have some consultation, and we had a discussion about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, about this. Council gave direction. Now we've designed the streetscape according to that direction, and it would cost quite a bit of funds to go back on the design and redo the project. Also, when we're looking at parking on the grade that is there currently, some of the side streets may be better to have angle parking, and there's multiple areas in the downtown core that aren't quite as busy as Argyle or as other main streets like 3rd Street, which may be suitable for that. But we're going to wait until the Transportation Master Plan comes to fruition before we make choices on where to add additional parking in the area.
Thank you. I think that is a really important comment, and a relook at parking in general, I think would be really valuable. I just wanted to note that when we were talking about Councillor Solda brought up the construction time and how challenging that could be for businesses. And Second Avenue is all parallel parking. And so, I mean, that could be something that even before this work begins, we could commit to changing that even to angled parking to add some additional spaces, even just whether that be long-term or not, but even just in sort of an anticipation of there being increased parking on side streets as people need to try to get to those businesses. So there's probably other streets that could be looked at as well that are in the area or other parking solutions, but I think that would be one that could be really valuable. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you very much to staff for bringing this forward, and thank you, Councillor Solda, for bringing up the parking again. I think it's I don't want to go back on decisions that the council's made, but again, I wasn't in favor of the parallel parking to begin with. But in saying that, knowing full well that we're not just going to dig up Argyle Street because of parking. There is massive amounts of work that has to be done underneath that road, and we're not just going to dig it up once, twice, 3 times. We're going to dig it up once and get it done right. So the conversation about parking has happened a year and a bit ago. Council, non-unanimously, but council did pass that and we move forward. So I'm glad that the mayor, yourself and Mr. Fox are looking at other alternatives for that. I'm not willing to hold up the process because we need the rest of the work done. I'm really worried about what's going on underneath it, and what can be done on top can be done and spread out as well. But knowing full well, especially when, say, Canada Day comes around in a week's time and we're going to be closing down Harbor Key for parking, well, everybody's going to be parked down there and be walking. So we really need to take a look at that, and I'm glad you've brought it up in that way. And I thank you again, Councillor Solda, for your concerns, and I know you've talked to some of the business owners like I have myself. But again, I'm not willing to stop the project and put even more taxpayers' money onto this when we could start now and get it done. The decision's been made to go with this plan. We've got a plan. Unless council wants to redesign the whole street, then I think this is the time where we just move forward with it, and then we work on those other opportunities.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Mealy. Councillor Solda.
Just to add to that whole concern regarding the parking is staff has to park. So they're going to park on the side streets. So they're going to take the lower half probably. And so there's issues there. And you pretty well, if not at least 1 to 2 people parking, as well as staff, if they have staff, and I'm talking about business owners. Also, the accessibility. We have, Argyle is on a hill, so accessibility, some of these, some people aren't going to be going to the businesses because they will have trouble accessing. It's quite a distance. So those are my concerns. Also, regarding the reserve fund, just to say, I mean, this project has been on the books for a long time to do, and I acknowledge that, and I acknowledge, and again, I like the idea of what could potentially be down there on that particular street. But the reserve funds, what if, so that particular reserve for future, if there's an emergency, how much is gonna be left in that reserve, maybe for the public to understand how much will be left after we take out the 6 million plus. What if there's an emergency and we need more? Again, yes, I know we can borrow, but we have borrowed from other reserves for other issues. So I'm just kind of curious.
Thank you. It is split between 3 reserves, and I think it was stated at our last, at the committee of the whole meeting that our water and sewer reserves would be largely drained by this project. It is a large infrastructure project, or the combination of projects, including the next one. Again, in emergencies, we always have the ability to borrow internally, and I think we also have to remember that we have done most of our infrastructure projects not through borrowing externally, but that is how a lot of municipalities fund their infrastructure, is borrowing externally. We, of course, did borrow significantly for the sewage lagoon project, but the rest of our projects, for the most part, we have, and the Dry Creek project, which was prior to my time, most of our projects we have saved for and then done with reserve funds. A lot of municipalities borrow for infrastructure projects. So it's a balance, but if an emergency project does come up, we do have that ability as well as borrowing internally from other reserves. Councillor Dame. Any other comments? Okay, then I believe it was moved and seconded. Yes, moved and seconded on the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried, none opposed. Thanks, everyone. And on to item number 7, Franklin River Road Water Main Replacement Project. Mike, if you want to just give a brief overview.
Thank you, and through the chair. This section of the water main is quite old, and lots of other information was shared at the COW meeting. But basically, this is also fixing the area where we have an aerial crossing that was damaged when a truck went off the road, striking it several years ago. And with that, the urgency is even bumped up more. So on replacing it, it is the only way that our water is just comes into town, and we should be looking after it. This, with the cost of replacing the full water main, is quite extensive. So we have broken it up into 4 phases, which you'll see in the report. It talks about when those phases would be completed.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll move that council amend the City of Port Alberni 2025-2029 Financial Plan Bylaw Number 5123-2025 by allocating $4,033,000 towards the Franklin River Road Water Main Replacement Phase 1 with funding from the Water Infrastructure Capital Reserve in the amount of $4,033,000 for completion in 2026. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I apologize. And further, that council amend the City of Port Alberni 2025-2029 Financial Plan Bylaw Number 5123-2025 by allocating $4,444,000 towards the Franklin River Road Water Main Replacement Phase 2 with funding from the Water Infrastructure Capital Reserve in the amount of $4,444,000 for completion in 2029.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Comments? Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So yeah, just go back for the people on in the public. So Councillor Verbrugge and I took a nice tour with Mosaic a couple weeks ago. Part of that was the tour of Bainbridge and the struggles and challenges that can be had there. This is a no-brainer when it comes to me. It's unfortunate again that a truck did this damage, and but kudos to city staff and all those who put that jury-rig system together. If you go by and drive by, you're like, that's our water line. Like, they've done a really good job to do what they can with what they've got. But again, this is our water into our community, and it's not just the citizens as well in Port Alberni. There's other communities that rely on our water as well. So this one's a bit of a no-brainer for me, and I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Solda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just so people understand too, I mean, according to staff, we were told that if we didn't fix it, we came close to having no water in our city. So this is important. But I'm just kind of curious to know, what about the truck that hit it, the company where are we on that? Because we had quite a discussion at our Committee of the Whole meeting, and I still believe that we should be going back to ICBC, and I believe it was Mosaic, right, to have some conversation.
Sure. Thank you. I can't say that we've talked to everybody since the last meeting. However, we will follow up on that. It is a reminder to council. It was the only reason this was an aerial main in the first place is because of a slough that happened there a long time ago that changed it. And I believe that our ICBC claim was substantially completed, but that doesn't mean that we won't reach back out to them, as that was stated in the CAL. We'll be talking with them, and we'll also talk with Mosaic about the repair.
Thank you. I think it's important to note that, and I know I've said Mosaic has really, I would say, improved in how they operate as a community partner, certainly locally. But this is not the first major trucking incident we've had with Mosaic in our community. And I think that there is an expectation, certainly from my perspective, that they're accountable when they have drivers in our community on our roads. They need to be accountable to how they drive, how they operate. I know that following the first accident in our community, which was a logging truck, not the first one, but the first one that ended up being a public discussion was a logging truck rollover on Stamp Avenue with a family driving right toward them and narrowly escaping that. And then following that, the reckless driving dash cam footage that came out showing how that logging truck had been driving along River Road. with the wheels coming off the road, they were driving so fast. I will credit that Mosaic, following that incident, did require their contractors to put telematics into their vehicles. So there was some accountability. We haven't received a report, and Mosaic did commit to giving us one following the logging truck accident taking out our water. We haven't received a report on that accident, and Mosaic committed that we would be informed on whether that was driver error or just, an unfortunate accident. I would like to follow up with Mosaic on that. If we have another incident of a reckless driver in our community in a Mosaic vehicle, I think there's further action that needs to be taken here. This was obviously a very significant incident that put our community at great risk. And I'd like it to be followed up on. And they did make that commitment to us that they would provide us with further information. Of course, we were extremely focused on getting our water back up and running. And so I think we didn't circle back to that. So if we could get that information in the near future, I'd appreciate it. Councillor Solda.
And I totally agree with you, Madam Mayor. It's not an oops mistake and let's bury it. I think we need to carry on, and Mosaic has been a better partner with us, and if they don't want to be a partner in this one, let's go to the next phase from there. And I'm not going to mention what the next phase would be. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm just going through the report from the last COW meeting, and I guess just a question through you to staff is, what about grant funding? So I said this part of the report, council may also not proceed or project with project or provide alternatives and differ the options, including consulting with senior government to support grant funding allocations that will enable these projects to proceed. So I'm going to assume, though, that we are still going to ask for money where we can. Just want to make sure.
Absolutely. Mike?
Yeah, through the chair, we will always be looking for grants and advocating for funding, just as I know council does at every conference we go to. So that effort will continue. This is a vital spot, and the area we're talking about, the aerial, is just part of the full replacement. Again, the pipe is quite old and in need of repair.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments on the motion? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried. Sorry, any opposed? None opposed. All right, and on to the long list of budget amendments. I don't think we need an overview unless council has any questions. I will go to Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been encouraged to make this motion that council amend City of Port Alberni 2025 to 2029 financial plan bylaw number 5123/2025 as follows, inclusive of Roman numerals I through to CX.
Thank you very much. Moved, and is there seconded by Councillor Mealy? For a second, Councillor Patola, I was like, oh, he's going to totally mess with us and read it all out word for word today. So thank you for not doing that. Comments on the motion? Councillor Mealy.
No, just for everybody in the public who maybe didn't see the committee of the whole meeting, the recommendation is on the June 16th, 2025 committee of the whole meeting, and it is 110 either increases or decreases. So if there's a reason why we're not reading it all out, but it is on the agenda, and the entirety is part of the committee of the whole meeting in June 16th.
Absolutely, thank you. Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, maybe we could have a quick explanation, because out there in the world, they are not understanding why we're doing this. If this is extra taxation, or did we screw up, or whatever, maybe an explanation can be brought forward.
Absolutely. Our Director of Finance will, I'm sure, be happy to give us an overview of this process.
Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Mayor. Normally we do our financial plan amendment at the end of the year after we make a few adjustments to the financial plan. That's usually including some non-tax items. So we have no ability to amend the tax rate bylaw, as we have already sent out the taxes, and that's complete. So that's not happening. But what we'll do is we'll make that amendment. But with the collective agreement that was ratified April 1st, there were so many amendments that needed to be made that we needed to undertake something so that we could ensure that our budget numbers would match what we'd be having as far as our year to date. So we budget line by line, and we ensure that these lines now take that surplus and that allocation of 110,000 of the contingency spread across all the line items. And then, of course, there's some cleanup as far as housekeeping. We moved one account from finance to public works, and then some of the capital changes for other housekeeping items.
Thank you very much. Okay, seeing no other comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And item number 9, 2025 to 2029 Financial Plan Amendment, Bylaw number 5123-1, 2025. Councillor Haggard, would you like to read this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that the City of Port Alberni 2025 to 2029 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 5123-1, 2025 be now introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Any discussion? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Haggard.
I'd like to move that the City of Port Alberni 2025 to 2029 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 5123-1, 2025 be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
I'd like to move that the City of Port Alberni 2025 to 2029 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 5123-1, 2025 be read a third time.
Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And no correspondence for action, no proclamation, so on to correspondence for information. And I'll go to our corporate officer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next item on your agenda is council correspondence. These are letters and communications for information or future action received by council from members of the public, organizations, and other levels of government. The first is a copy of a letter from the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources regarding forestry sector economic revitalization and resilience from MP Gorjons. And the next is the updated local health area profiles from Island Health. Next, we have audit committee minutes from October 1st and November 26, 2024. Then we have traffic advisory committee minutes of April 27, 2000, I believe that's 24. And the Alberni Valley Museum and Heritage Commission minutes of May 7th, 2025. Are there any items of correspondence that members of council would like to speak or take action on?
Thank you. Councillor Solda and then Councillor Mealy.
Madam Mayor, on this, I do have something I want to pull out, but it's not on this summary. It's a summary that council gets every week on correspondence, and I would like to pull out from INEO, and it's dated, received to the city the 17th of June, and it's regarding our hiring practices in the city of Port Alberni. And you have to have grade 12, and it was brought forward that I guess somebody applied for a position with the city and did not have grade 12, although got called back for an interview. And I'm just wondering about our practices. Is it, with today's age and what's happening in the world, is it wise to just have a grade 12? Somebody could be really qualified in a position and don't have the grade 12, the education. So I'm just kind of curious to know, how does the rest of council feel about taking a look at it, and maybe the CAO might make a comment on that. Because I know in the past, when I was younger, I applied for a job, and because I didn't have a particular thing, but I did have the skills for it and everything, I could not get the job. So I'm just kind of curious to know I had to have this other certificate.
Thank you. I think that's an excellent question. Mike, are you able to speak to, if you know, just off the top of your mind, if that is an administrative policy or an old council policy?
Through the chair, we just received this letter last week. I haven't had a chance to talk with the director of HR. Some positions we do require it, and other positions we don't. This particular circumstance, we wouldn't discuss here. If council had more inquiries about this specific incident, then we can talk about it in camera.
Thank you. And just so, not talking about a specific hiring at all, but about policy in general. Do you know if we have a blanket policy or not?
I don't believe we have a blanket policy from council.
Okay, so maybe we could bring back further information to council if there is a policy, and if so, if it's administrative or council, just to give a general overview so that council could direct any changes if they would like to consider. Councillor Solda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I only brought this incident up because it was written in the letter. I just want to see what our policy is, and I know there's jobs that you have to have the education. You just can't become a planner and build a building without some idea. Anyways, it's just in general. Thank you.
We probably want grade 12 for planners, but I think it's an excellent point. There could be a lot of positions where it's not needed, and this could be already taken care of, but I think it's important to get information. And so, Mike, if you can make sure that information gets brought back, just even a verbal report to council, I think would be helpful at a future meeting. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just through you to staff, I just want to pull out C and D here. There are audit committee meetings and audit committee minutes and traffic advisory committee minutes from last year. Just wondering, like, we didn't get them before, and I guess the question would be, why are we dealing with it a year later? I'm going to assume it's, well, I'd love to, yeah. Sorry, and I apologize. I just thought we had dealt with these before, and that's why.
To the chair, thank you for the question. I believe the minutes from last year simply because we didn't have quorum at the last few meetings, so there was not sufficient members present at those committees in order to.
Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Haggard.
Thank you. If council members have noticed, we received a letter from Island Health with updated local health area profiles. If you have not had an opportunity yet to read the profile on Port Alberni, I have scanned through it. I have not done a deep dive, but it's very useful information for us to read and keep in our minds for planning for the next few years for the community.
Thank you for highlighting that. Okay, would somebody like to move receipt of our correspondence? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no more comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed, and we have no report from in camera today, so on to council reports. Are there any items councillors would like to speak to? Councillor Haggard.
Thank you. I recently attended online an updated meeting from Kofi, and during the Q&A period, I asked the question, what is the one thing that a municipality can do to help support forestry activities? And the answer was that 2 resolutions came forward at AVICC, and to please support these resolutions when they go to UBCM. So I was very proud to say it was our municipality who sent in these resolutions. And so we're being followed and we're being recognized. So I was very happy to see that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Solda, did you have your hand up for council reports? No? Okay. Then would somebody like to move receipt of council reports? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And on to new business. Item number 1, 2025 UBCM Strategic Priorities Fund. Also from the Committee of the Whole. Mike, if you want to just give a brief overview.
Sure. Thank you, and through the chair. So every year when council attends UBCM, usually we request meetings with different ministers and different staffing agencies. So you'll see in the report. Oh no, this is, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. I'm sorry, I was reading ahead. No, this is the grant funding from the Strategic Priorities Fund that was released from the government. And this covers the 2 projects that staff recommended at the Committee of the Whole. One was for the third Argyle Street project, and then the other one is for a community well-being and safety strategy through the capacity stream for $100,000.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Councillor Patola. Would you like to read the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm hoping I haven't read ahead as well. I move that council authorize staff to submit an application for the 2025 UBCM Strategic Priorities Fund Capital Infrastructure Stream for the Argyle 1st to 3rd Avenue redevelopment project, and therefore commits to the City of Port Alberni providing overall grant management and supporting any potential cost overruns associated with the project.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And Councillor Patola, if you want to read the next one.
I move that council authorize staff to submit an application for the 2025 UBCM Strategic Priorities Fund capacity building stream for the development of a community safety and well-being strategy, and therefore commits to the City of Port Alberni providing overall grant management and supporting any potential cost overruns associated with the project.
Moved by Counselor Patola, seconded by Counselor Solda. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And item number 2, we have McLean Mill Historic Zone recommendation from the Committee of the Whole meeting. Counselor Patola, would you like, to, or sorry, Counselor Verbrugi, would you like to read this one? And then we do have a manager here if there's any questions.
That council direct administration to complete safety upgrades to the McLean Mill National Historic Site for $50,000 with funding from the McLean Mill Reserve.
Thank you, Counselor Verbrugi. Is there a seconder? Second. Seconded by Counselor Solda. And comments or questions? And I assume there will be some because we had lots of discussion about this at our Committee of the Whole meeting. Counselor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just brought to our attention that Mr. Elliott Drew is in the gallery right now as we speak, and would like to address, as from what I understand, this subject as being part of the Chamber of Commerce. So.
Okay, is the council okay if we welcome up Elliot? Okay, come on forward, Elliot.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. It's wonderful to be here. First, I should say that mostly I'm here as a tool for your disposal in this discussion. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. There is a slight piece that I would like to speak to about what was discussed at the COW, and that would be the discussion of fencing off the sawmill in its entirety for the issue of public safety at this moment. And that being that the mill itself is the star attraction of our site. So if we look at some of the costs that were discussed, is building a fence to close off that site versus doing the work, some of the work that needs to be happening to make sure that viewing of the mill is done safely. That's something that we'll have to continue to discuss. But we know as far as our operational part that the people that come to visit, having the opportunity to look inside the mill, especially on that rear viewing platform, to be able to see how work was done, it is very important to them. That's why they're coming. One of the main pieces, they no longer can see it work, but they still want to see how it worked. If we're fencing off at that section off at the very, very front, it's very, very difficult to get a sense of what that looks like. And I know that there are options on the table that we could look at that might also make that possible while taking care of some of the other safety concerns around the green chain and other things like that. So if you have any other questions, I'm definitely here to assist you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Elliot before we let him sit back down? Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through to you to Elliot. Thank you for coming, sir. The observation deck itself at the mill, is that still in good repair? Like, and I'm just saying, allowing access to the public to at least stand there, but fence off the rest, the green chain and all that. Is that still a possibility? And I guess what I'm also asking too is you're the ones running it out there. What is your preference?
Our preference definitely would be to ensure that the visiting public, whether that be local or people from abroad, have the opportunity to see inside the mill. We know during any kind of tour, our educational tours with kids, whether it be visitors from across the nation or from across the world, or just with our locals that are being introduced to our community and come out to get that sense of place and a sense of history of what this community is about. That is the part that they need to see. That is the part that they can relate to. That's the part that tells them how people did the job that we talk about every day in this community. So if we are able to keep the observation deck going, and like I said, I know it's going to require a little bit more work. Both Councillor Dame and Councillor Solder were out there. It is not without its challenges, and I appreciate that. But I do believe that it is in good enough nick that it can be brought back. We do not have to, there's not the lower observation deck isn't necessary, but definitely that upper observation deck is very necessary in our opinion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to follow up with a comment to that. I think that that's a very valid point. I think that we do need to consider sort of the implications that completely fencing it off has on the operations currently on site as it is. I still support fencing it off, and I also understand that I suppose we could look at fencing it in a way that allowed access to the top deck but blocked off the lower areas. But then we'd be looking at a whole new, budget required to understand what the cost would be there and everything. So I think that that's an entirely new conversation at that point. And we have safety needs that are sort of pressing immediately that I think we have to address. So I don't know if we do a temporary measure and then look at what that would cost. But yeah, just I think that I'm not sure what the best plan is there, but I do have, as I agree with staff's concerns, that there are immediate safety issues that have to be addressed, and I wish that we could maybe have split the motion as recommended, lumps a bunch of things together, and I would have maybe preferred to address them individually because I have different feelings on some of the different issues and how we might address them. But as it is, we'll see what the rest of council feels.
I think just important to note that if you'd like to address them individually, we absolutely can do that. It's not too late. Thank you. I think that's a great comment. Councillor Solda.
So, Madam Mayor, I concur with Councillor Day, and it'll be interesting because now I've seen it from a Chamber of Commerce point of view and what they are looking at. But just so you know, July 9th, we all got an invitation to join staff and go through McLean's Mill and have a look from the staff's a different view regarding some of the safety issues and some of the other things. So I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing what they have to say in that. So just thought I'd bring that up.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm wondering, and thank you for your presence, Mr. Drew. I'm just wondering if we have a facilities individual here today that could speak to the timing of these upgrades, and if there is a further amount of information that will be forthcoming in July, if we should just postpone this meeting until then, or this motion until then.
Great question. Rob.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the question. Some of the immediate safety concerns have been addressed at a very low level with barricades, caution tape, but so they're kind of no immediate concern, but essentially as soon as we're given some direction, we're prepared to immediately take the necessary steps. It is possible to split out some of the items that are more urgent than others to address, and I'm happy to comment on any of those.
Awesome. And yeah, go ahead, Councillor Patola, and then Councillor Solda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this question, if Mr. Drew is able to respond to it, I'm just wondering, with regards to the tours that this is the star attraction of, are those tours that require an entry fee, or are those free tours?
So as of May 16th, when we reopened, there is during our operating hours when we have placed out our signage and we are manning the buildings and have staff on site to answer questions and to take people through certain parts. There is an entry fee to the site, again, at $10 for adults, $5 for students and seniors, and then all children ages 7 and under are free. So these tours, both as part of our self-guided walking tour, which directs people through the mill, and right now through the lower walkway underneath the log hall, and then back up we are directing people around the stairs right now because that's one of the major concerns, is that there are some stairs that aren't there, and that could be quite dangerous. So we are working with the public to make sure that they're getting to see everything that they want to see, but as safely as possible. But yes, they are part of an admission style model that we have moved back to since last year.
Councillor Solda.
And you forgot to mention the $15 Port Alberni fee type of?
Yes, we should obviously make sure that that's a big part. If you have a V9Y address, as all people in the valley do help subsidize with their taxes the site, there is a one-time $15 locals pass that is good at one entry, and then will take you through the season.
Councillor Solda.
So from staff, we have a list of what we need to do. Could you just say what the list is, the immediate stuff that we should do before the season really starts and that you believe we need to do?
Thanks, through the chair. I think I'll just make a comment and then I'll turn it over to our facilities manager. Again, I don't think any of us in the room here currently are structural engineers or understand what the structure itself is, and we don't have a report that's current on it. So our comments are coming strictly from being out there in a visual observation, and can't guarantee any of those aspects of the site. But I can let the facilities manager say from a high level what is currently needs to be brought up to a standard at the main mill site.
Thank you. Yeah, as Mike alluded to, we haven't done structural assessments on a large portion. The log haul portion did have structural engineering assessment, and a temporary structural fix was put in place there. In the Appendix A of the Committee of the Whole report, there is recommended costs for structural assessments of the mill and the green chain. As far as the immediate operating items, the waste conveyor at the behind the mill looks in pretty rough shape, and I don't know that the tours go behind there, so that one would definitely be a candidate for fencing. The train station platform would be much more expensive to fix than to remove, and with consulting with our manager of culture, it's not historical significance, so we would recommend taking that down. There's a bunch of debris. We're coming into wildfire season. That's wood and other debris that is piled around some sea cans out there. So we would recommend that and a couple really minor repairs around the site to things like the fence behind the blacksmith shop is like $200, I believe, to reattach some boards. And there's some tin loose on the mill itself that would probably have to be fixed, whether we fenced or not, could become a projectile in a storm. So other things can be just like locked up. The facilities that maybe have hazardous materials implications, we could lock those and just exclude access to those sites. But
Thank you very much. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate all the information. Thank you very much. So just from hearing, it doesn't sound like council's against it. It's just, I think what we have to do is not to put a fence up in a way of hampering the operator out there. And I'm glad that the operator has come today and discussed that. And so I'm hoping that even if we do pass this, that staff will go and work with the operator and work around those, of course, what's safe. And I have full confidence in Mr. Craneville and Mr. Fox for doing that. So, yeah, so I mean, I'm willing to support it as it is, as long as the concerns of where the fence is placed is taken care of and ensures that there's still visibility for tourists at the attraction.
So I think it's important to note that there is the motion that's been made based on the fact that there's a list in the report. In my opinion, council is voting on whether to send forward approval of those items, not to direct staff to work with the operator. So I think we need a different motion if that's the intent. Item number 1 on that list is sawmill and green chain fencing to prevent access for $20,000. So if council wants to remove that item, then, or give different direction on that item, then I think an amendment is needed. I'm wondering, I guess, Rob, you could probably answer this question. Has there been consideration for what would be required to make the rear viewing deck, the upper part, safe for public to access again, rather than fencing off the entire actual mill site? And I understand we haven't had an structural engineered assessment, but I'm just wondering, like, at a general level, like, we've been maintaining this to some capacity, and obviously it's gotten to a point where we feel it's unsafe. What type of repair would be needed in order to make sure people can continue to use that?
Yes, thank you for the question. At a general level, after touring the site with former Director Thorpe and Mr. Drew, we did bring in a local contractor, and we have individual quotes for most of those items. I would say, again, at a general level, they are sort of minor, but there is a lot of them. So it would just be the cost analysis of fencing to deal with everything versus adding up the little things, which we're happy to do whatever council directs.
Thank you. And I think my question kind of stems from the fact that we've learned fencing is not cheap. I think in general, we often hear that, and it's not like we save money by doing a fence and then picking it up and putting it elsewhere. That's just as expensive as getting the fence, we've been told. So I think that in my opinion, I'd like to move forward with all of the items that have been recommended on this list, with the exception of, I think there has been an excellent point made that if we take away the ability for people to engage with the actual mill, the upper side or the upper part, and I appreciate that the lower part is not as much of a need, then I think we are hampering that site in a lot of ways. I know for myself personally, walking through the upper side, the rear side, and obviously when it was operating, like, that really is the attraction. Even with it not operating, that still is what you're seeing out there. So I think that I would like to maybe start with exploring, like, maybe start with giving approval to the rest of the list and then asking for staff to bring back a budget for what it would take to just repair those pieces so that the rear upper viewing deck could be accessed safely by the public, and then council can make a decision. If we're talking about $20,000 to fence or $50,000 to repair, then council may want to fence. But I think we don't have that full list right now of what those small repairs would add up to. So personally, I would like to see us get that before we make that piece of the decision. Mike.
Thanks. And understanding that, I think, again, what we wanted to do is buy some time on the safety issues to bring back a 5-year, depending on what council wants to see at that site. So if we are planning on keeping it running, we can probably do some small fixes out there to keep it safe, but maybe allocating about $5-6 grand towards it this year to address the immediate safety concerns and then bringing back a list. I'd like to, if we're gonna have it, I'd like to fix the stairs, and there's a few other smaller pieces that would need to be fixed right away if we're gonna be allowing the public onto that, and then bring forward the full 5-year sort of budget on that to look at it. I would hate to pass these and then have the main part we're trying to save closed off until we actually have further information. So if we want to continue those tours, if council would indulge taking out the 20,000 and then putting in a small amount to make some immediate repairs, as many as we can, and then we would bring a report back. At least we could address some of those safety concerns right away.
Okay, but I think it's important to note that council has put off until a future date the decision on whether to actually prepare and proceed with a capital plan for the site. So I view that as totally different than what we're talking about right now. I think council's not ready to make the decision on a capital plan for moving forward, but when we talk about safety, what I'm hearing is the options are we can do some reasonably minor repairs or we can fence off the site. If there's an option to do reasonably minor repairs and still ensure usability of the site, that would be my preference. I think that's totally separate from whether we're ready to proceed with like a 5-year capital plan or not.
So through the chair, so I'm just talking not the 5-year plan for the full site, but for the actual green chain area, like the actual main mill. I'm not sure if we do, let's say 6,000 this year, do we need another 6,000 next year? I haven't been out with Rob to the site to look at that, unless Rob can answer that on the spot here. But I'm guessing that to have it immediately open for public use, there are some repairs that have to happen immediately. And that's what I'm trying to understand. Council wants it open for the season. And if we want to open it for the season, the sooner we can have those minor repairs. So maybe I can ask Rob to comment on that. I just don't know about year after year about this particular item, not for the full site.
Yeah, and we're not really yet talking about year after year. We're talking about immediate safety issues. So is there an option to repair and make it safe for people to use immediately versus to put up the $20,000 fence? Rob?
Yes, when touring the site with Elliot and the contractors, it's mostly a set of stairs needs immediately rebuilding. There's some loose boards in the main walkway deck. All of the handrails are rotting and slivering. There's anti-slip mesh that's curling, so there's trip hazards. So they're all kind of minor in scope. There's just a lot of them. So we could address those with, like CAO mentioned, probably, I do have individual quotes, I'd have to refer to them, but for less than the 20 of the fence.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. Councillor Dame and then Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's important that we keep in mind that if we are doing just small expenditures in order to make it, safe and well, I'll say safe for the time being, as safe as we can, because I think it's important that we remember that these are sort of Band-Aid measures, because the building itself is in dire need of repair, and I think like right down to, I mean, it's got wooden gutters that are failing, which means that water is pouring through into places where it shouldn't, and the building is starting to rot and lean, and sections, are starting to collapse in certain places here and there, as has been mentioned earlier. And I think, it sounds like, I'm not trying to say staff is wrong. I completely believe their assessment that we could make it safe for this year with some, repairs to the stairs and things like that. But I think that from a council perspective, we need to be thinking longer term, what is McLean Mill to us, to the community, and making plans based on that. What I don't want to see is us saying, well, let's put $5,000 just to limp it through this season, and then there's another $20,000, and there's another $50,000, and we're at a point with this structure where it's not gonna be just little fixes here and there. It's gonna be a lot of repair required, and we're at that, that snowball's going to start rolling, and as soon as we start getting, so I think that's why the fence is an appealing idea, because it says, hey, you can come, you can look at it. But having said that, I totally understand the concern of the Chamber of Commerce saying like, hey, that's right now, from an operator perspective, that's the draw. That's what people are coming out there to walk around and see. And so I think that's the real question we're asking here is that a priority for us, that people have that access? Because if it is, then I think we go ahead and make those safety upgrades, but we need to go into it with our eyes open that this is going to be a lot more than just let's fix the stairs, even if that is, as the manager just pointed out, the immediate pressing need.
Yeah, thank you. Great comments. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate it. So, I'm not opposed to fencing it all off, that's for sure. I think we can work with making a fence that that is up and around McLean's Mill, but still have the access to the deck. So, so again, I'm not opposed to fencing. I think that's actually the prudent move to keep people out for the most part, but trying to go from good owners to good landlords in this case is just to ensure that the people that we have operating the mill has the access to that one section. So that's where I'm kind of thinking is still having a fence, still fencing it off for the most part, but allowing the observation deck to be accessed. And then, I mean, we don't have to allow any more access other than that for the rest of its time out there, so.
Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm wondering if Mr. Drew could tell us what the visitorship numbers are at the mill.
So we are already off to a great start. We've seen about 400 visitors so far. Our campground this year has already surpassed last year's complete total with pre-bookings, so things are going well on that front. And again, we are very much on par and on track to meet our 4,000 visitors, and that's outside, when we count our visitors, that's outside of any events that are held on the site. Usually between our community events and weddings and those, they'll usually double our visitor statistics over the course of the year. But we're well on track to hit our 4,000 that we are expecting this year. And I would, because it has become a moment in the community, as we are right now in talks to have yet another motion picture looking and to use the site. When we talk about building fences and closing off areas, there does need to be, at least for us, some clarity about how and when it's appropriate to have these productions that see that as, and the access to that as again, once the draw, and being able to be in and around that building, just so that we're clear on council's, on how council would like that to be used.
Thank you. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just trying to see what our cost benefit is on this. So at 4,000 visitors at approximately $10 a ticket, that's $40,000. Very rough, of course. How much of that comes back to the city?
Council receives 5% on any and all activities on the mill through our heritage fee. So whether that's admission, whether that's people purchasing in the gift shop, whether that's people purchasing in a can of pop or a bottle of water, and then anything that is taking place on the historical zone of the land is an additional 10%. So during a wedding, if they have a ceremony on there, a portion of that package is allocated and as using the site, and then council receives 10% additional, so it took 15% total on that.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Patola.
So just to put on the record, what my understanding is, my rough calculation is the $20,000 fence is going to cost us $14,000 of net loss, if I'm right. So just want council to understand that this is not a, want council to know that my understanding is this is not a cost recovery business. And we are losing money, as Councillor Dame has pointed out, we are losing money irrespective of the fact that people spend admission costs to go out there. Most of that, 15% of that is what comes back to council to pay for the upgrades that we're responsible for.
Absolutely, this is not a cost recovery business. I think you're very right on that. So nobody's going to argue that with McLean Mill. Council and Mike, thanks for gathering that we believe the number to repair the viewing deck is around $6,000. I would very much like to avoid this fence if we can, and I am thinking about our National Historic Site. You know, love the state of it or not, it is an attraction in some capacity, and I'm thinking about like a chain link fence probably around the main building of it? No? What kind of fence are we going to have? Is it going to be historic looking?
Yeah, through the chair, it would be a wooden fence. It's not a full restricting. There's actually a picture in the report that went to the cow meeting. I guess we could get it brought up here. And
great. I
so,
can't see the cow
yourselves
agenda
and
anymore.
public can see it. Yeah.
It looks
Yeah,
lovely.
it's AI, but it did
My
show you
Photoshop skills
what,
and AI, and it's what they would call a rustic deer fence.
I love that we're using AI for that.
We had a contractor give us a quote on approximating that look.
And we did also check with the insurance company that it just has to be a barrier, not a full fence that is obstructing view, et cetera.
Okay, I actually like the look of that fence, so I retract my comments on this. So I do personally think it's really important that we try to keep access to that viewing deck. Are there other, I mean, I know that there are other parts of the fence that even if we were to, or other parts of the area that even if we were to repair the viewing deck, we would still need to fence off some parts. Rob?
I definitely recommend we fence off access to behind the mill where the waste conveyor, it's a large structure that could come down, but I don't typically think the tours go there. And we could look at reducing that fence structure to only start at the left side of the green chain and go across. And that would leave repairs to the viewing deck as a possibility, and then just restrict access to the lower decking.
I think that sounds to me like a ideal way of trying to move forward here. So I don't know if within the existing motion budget that has been put forward, if we could try to shift projects a little bit to repair the viewing deck. It doesn't seem like a large amount of money within that to try to make room for or prioritize that instead of other things. And I know, Rob, you did talk about some potentials of locking up chemical or things that need to be instead of removing them and stuff like that. So my preference is that we try to maintain access to that viewing deck and from there address all of the safety issues that we can within this motion. Other comments? Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think you're correct when you describe the request as not a large amount of money. Unfortunately, it's a small amount of money on top of many other small amounts of money, which is essentially death by 1,000 cuts. And we're up to, I don't know, the rough estimate that we keep bantering about is what, 25 million cuts that we've had over the lifespan of McLean Mill. I'm not interested in spending any more money on McLean Mill whatsoever. Your worship has pointed out what this city might look like if we had $25 million and could do with that. I'm sure that 20,000 or 50,000 right now might not make a big difference to what we see in our city, but it would make a small difference. And it certainly combined with all the other past and potential future expenses would make a large difference. So I am not in support of spending any more money on McLean Mill. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Dane.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just one more quick comment to add to that we should consider is that even if that makes it safe for this year, I'm not an expert, but it was notably obvious that the railing around the upper deck is in very poor shape, and so it might be okay to hold up for now, but I would think that that's a very near future concern as well. So if we're going to fix stairs, I think the next request is very likely going to be the railing.
I think that was a part of the 6,000, yes. Yeah, but thank you. Okay. Mike.
Through the chair, again, if the deck is council's priority and fencing off anywhere where it would cause risk to the city, but allowing access to that viewing deck, we can look at that. And then maybe it'll be at a future report or a future request, maybe some of the mold removal in the houses or the moss removal off of roofs. Some of those safety issues, again, could last this year, but if we were planning on maintaining the site, would need to be addressed at another time. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not sure if the manager of facilities agrees with me, but if we were prioritizing, deal with the safety things that are right directly in us. If there's mold in a building, we could lock it off, except for if we leave it locked off for years and years, the mold will get better, and mold never gets better, it gets worse. So, but we could take that direction from council. Again, I do think to do as much as we can, we would need that 50,000. We can bring back a detailed report to council on what we spend the money on, but we could take that direction.
Thank you. I'll just echo Councillor Patola's comments that this is death by a thousand cuts. And that I also don't want to spend another dollar on McLean Mill, to be honest. And I wish we weren't in this position. And I will say also, as I did at the last meeting, that I think this is the first time with the Chamber as the operator that I've really felt like McLean Mill has turned a positive corner. So I do still think it's a, you know, not to sound too negative, it's a burden because it is a constant cost and because it's not going to be, you know, profitable, and we recognize that, and it will require more money. To what extent, I do think that we need to have a united vision on, so that there's clarity and so that we know to what level we are fixing things up, if at all, or if we decide we want to invest in it, because obviously all things are on the table and council hasn't made that decision yet. But I think given where we're at, the safety issues that exist today, I am supportive of the motion. Maybe I'll just make an amendment to it, that we keep it within the existing budget that has been noted in the motion, but that we amend the motion to include preference for repairing the rear viewing deck. Seconded by Councillor Solda. So still within the $50,000, not adding any more budget, but if possible, we repair that deck and put off other work. And we are going to obviously have a greater discussion, as we did direct at the Committee of the Whole, in the near future as well, about to what level we want to see investment in McLean Mill going forward into the future. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that. Just through you to staff. So I'm just looking at the list here, and the one of the list of things that needs to be done. The second one is the train platform, roughly $5,000 demolition removal. Nobody uses it. Nobody's on it. We can block it off. Is that something we can hold off and use that $5,000 towards the observation deck?
Rob.
It's currently blocked off just with barricades, so we'd either be having to fence it to block it off, but that cost would be more than pulling it down and being done with it for good, or we can leave it with caution tape and orange barricades, or however the direction is.
All right, and so if we approve the amendment that I just made, it will just give that discretion to staff to prioritize doing that work and adjust within their kind of knowledge other projects that are on this list. Okay, not seeing any other comments on the amendment. All in favor? Any opposed? Amendment passes. And any further comments on the full motion as amended? You want me to reread it? Okay, it is just that council direct administration to complete safety upgrades to the McLean Mill National Historic Site for $50,000 with funding from the McLean Mill Reserve, with preference given to, repairing the viewing deck. Thank you. Okay, on the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you for the report, Rob. And item number 3 is the municipal alcohol policy. And go ahead, Mike, you're giving all our overviews today.
Well, I can try. I'll try and answer the questions. I know Sarah did a lot of work on this with in the corporate office, but really it's an overviewing policy trying to weigh the benefits of having alcohol at events against not having alcohol at events, and the processes that the city would require of any events that are holding liquor at an event. So we have tried to balance it as administration, but in the report there are also lots of options that we left there that the medical health officer did recommend, and we can make any amendments that council wishes.
Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At AVICC, I watched the recording, and the medical health officer did give a shout out to Port Alberni for developing this alcohol policy. So I'd like to move that council approve the municipal alcohol policy number 3002-9.
Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Discussion? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And item number 4, Alberni Valley Bulldogs Multiplex Feature Wall. Yes. Oh,
Sorry,
go
Madam
ahead.
Mayor, I apologize. As I am a long-term volunteer and I do receive a small remuneration from the Bulldogs, I will recuse myself for any conflict of interest.
Thank you. And I'll go to Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to start by saying I think the Alberni Valley Bulldogs is a great organization. They teach these young men not just how to be good hockey players, but also how to be good corporate citizens and how to give back to the community, and that's something I really appreciate in this organization. However, where they propose to do the mural, it is a public facility owned by the city, and we promote being inclusive of all genders. The only thing that worries me is when a young girl drives up to the arena, she knows that she will never ever be able to be in the Hall of Fame simply because she's just a girl. So that kind of bothers me. However, I will support the motion, but I'm sure somebody from the Bulldogs is watching this. Can I encourage the Bulldogs to do something to help support and female hockey in the community? And there is a midget team, major midget female team coming to Port Alberni, which I'm very excited about. So hopefully they can do something together in order to promote female hockey in the community.
Absolutely, thank you. And would you like to make the motion?
I'd like to move that council approve in principle the proposed artwork for a feature wall at the multiplex and direct administration to develop an agreement with the Alberni Valley Bulldogs regarding its ownership, installation, and maintenance.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Patola. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. We will get Councillor Mealy back. Here he comes. And item number 5, we have at the annual report 2024. The annual report has been circulated. It's available online as well as at City Hall. Councillor Dame, would you like to read this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that Council for the City of Port Alberni endorse the annual report for the year ended December 31st, 2024 as presented.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mealy. Any comments on the annual report? Other than it looks fantastic, and great work to our communications team and all of the managers and directors that put a lot of work into the information. Okay, seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried, none opposed. Item number 6 is the statement of financial information for the year ending December 31st, 2024. Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as part of the annual reporting requirements, the city must post the statement of financial information. But first, we have to have the approval of council. So today it's in the agenda for review. If there's any questions, I'm here to provide answers or follow-up. And once approved, we'll have the chair of the audit committee sign and get that up for public posting.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the Sophie return? Okay, seeing none, Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that council approve the statements and schedules included in the 2024 Statement of Financial Information prepared to comply with the Financial Information Act as outlined in the report from the Director of Finance dated June 16th, 2025.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And item number 7, we have 2024 reserve balances.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the report is just for information purposes only today. Typically, we do present reserve balances in the notes to the financial statements. We would like to endeavor to change that for council to give you some more transparency for long-term financial planning as you make these tough decisions throughout the year for amendments. So before you, this report contains most of our segregated reserves. You'll see that it's a balance for 2024, plus any commitments made within the 2024 year. So that contains your work in progress or anything that would have been contained in that financial plan for 2024.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from council? Seeing none. Councillor Solda, would you like to read this one?
Madam Mayor, I move that the council receive the 2024 reserve balances and commitments report dated June 16th, 2025 as information.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Patola. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Item number 8, UBCM ministry meeting requests. Mike?
So now I can actually talk to this one. So through the chair, every year when we attend UBCM, usually we request minister meetings or meetings with staff on different issues that are facing the municipality, or to give thanks for an appreciation for the ministry's help. So staff has outlined the different meetings that we had last year and made recommendations for this year. But if there is any additional minister meetings or staff meetings that council wishes, we could also do that. I know that we do have some time for the administrative meetings, but the deadline is fast approaching. I believe it's next week with the minister requests. So I believe we have to get those letters ready and submit. There is a formal process in how to do that. It is online, and if anybody's curious, they can go on the UBCM website. It goes through all the instructions. I even believe there's some webinars on there that you can take to see how we do get to minister meetings.
Thank you. I would just like to suggest that we move the request for Ministry of Housing to the minister meetings rather than staff, or that we request both, I think is fine as well. I don't see. Oh, okay, it says Ministry of Housing, and then it says Housing and Municipal Affairs. Okay, thank you. Okay. Councillor Mealy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that council direct administration to schedule meetings at the 2025 UBCM convention with ministers and ministry staff based on topics outlined in the staff report. UBCM minister meetings requests dated June 23rd, 2025 in the following order. Meetings with the ministers. Ministry of Forests, Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs, Ministry of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport, Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General, Ministry of Jobs, Economic Development and Innovation, Ministry of Post-Secondary Education and Future Skills, Ministry of Social Development, Poverty Reduction, Ministry of Transportation and Transit, Ministry of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship, and Ministry of Education and Childcare. And the ministries, agencies, commissions, and corporate meetings with staff will be Ministry of Forest, Ministry of Housing, Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General, Ministry of Health, including Island Health and Provincial Health Services Authority, Ministry of Social Development, Poverty Reduction, and BC Emergency Health Services.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Patola. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. Item number 9, UBCM Grant 2025 Next Gen 911.
Through the chair, I'm just trying to remember in my my recesses of my memory what exactly this grant was for this, but this was for. I'm sorry, I actually can't remember right at this moment, so I'm not the best.
That's okay. There is an overview in the report, and I think if anyone is comfortable reading it, Councillor Haggard.
It's fairly straightforward, so I'll make the motion that council support the application to the UBCM 2025 Next Generation 911 NG 911 program to support local preparedness for the implementation of NG 911 in the amount of $66,379.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Oh, I see our Deputy Chief at the back now. Motion is moved and seconded. Mike?
Yeah, through the chair, sorry, I just got to the report, and I am aware of which one this is. This is for our computer-aided dispatch, our CAD tablets that are in the trucks that help us respond, and it also is 100% funding, no matching funds are requested. So I guess that's the straightforward answer that Councillor Haggard was talking about.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. Any comments from council? Councillor Mealy.
Yeah, just the main part of it is next generation 911, NG 911 refers to the modernization of 911 networks and infrastructure across Canada. And as Mr. Fox has said, the grant is 100% funded, no matching funds is available or required from the city.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Item number 10, Alberni Valley Museum and deaccessioning of firearms.
Thank you. The purpose of my report is to request council's approval for the deaccessioning of 3 firearms and 1 rifle case at the Alberni Valley Museum. The guns in question are a Winchester Model 1897 shotgun, a Savage Model 1899 rifle, an Ithaca hammerless shotgun, and plus a large rifle gun storage case. These objects are no longer meet the museum's current curatorial priorities and pose unnecessary financial, regulatory, and administrative burdens. I request that we are allowed to deaccession and dispose following the city's disposal procedures, and any proceeds that will be restricted to supporting the care of the permanent collection at the AVM. And if you have any questions, I shall answer them.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes. Councillor Haggard and then Councillor Solda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a very silly question, but I'm wondering why this is being brought to council. I thought it would just be a decision that you would make on your own. Is there a policy that has to come to council?
In my professional experience, a decision has to be made other than the director or the manager for the deaccessioning policy or procedures. And so it has gone to the Heritage Commission, and they are in support of the deaccessioning. And so ultimately, the decision rests with council, especially when it comes to disposing them within the procedures of the city's disposal policy.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Maybe you could just explain to the public, we can read what we see here, what's going to happen to them. So the public hears, could you just explain how we dispose of these?
These are historical firearms. Thank you. Probably what we would do is we would reach out to an accredited arms dealer, and they would be sent to auction, because the value of them really depends on what's, can be obtained on the open market at the time. So we probably would not send them to just a general auction. We would send them to a specialized auction. And we would communicate to the public where they would be and where they could find more information on them if they wanted to partake in availing of when they go on for auction.
And just to follow up, and so when they do go up for auction, what happens to the money? Does it go back into the museum? Where does it go?
Part of the request is any money that is realized from this disposal would go back to funding some of the other priorities that we have, maintaining the collection at the museum.
Thank you. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted input at the last Heritage Commission meeting. There was a lengthy discussion about this, especially on the previous ownership of these guns, the families and all that. So those have been exhausted. They were just merely dropped off, and here you go. But not only that, I guess there are certain regulations that staff has to deal with at the museum for these guns, just taking out time and energy that doesn't need to happen. So I appreciate that the Heritage Commission had their say on it. I appreciate the report from Ms. Perry, and yeah, we'll go for. I would vote for go forward with this.
Thank you. Would you like to make the motion?
I would love to, Madam Mayor, move that council approve the deaccessioning of and disposal of the following items from the permanent collection of the Alberni Valley Museum. One Winchester Model 1897 pump action 12 gauge shotgun, count number 1971.80.2. Savage Model 1899 lever action rifle, smokeless steel, accession number 1976.26.1, an Ithaca hammerless double barrel 12 gauge shotgun number 1976.27.1, and the large rifle gun case unaccessioned storage unit that had to be purchased.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Dame. Any further comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you very much. We will move on to Councillor Solda for toilets.
So, Madam Mayor, question out in the public. What's happening with the toilets that we were going to receive from Alberta that was generously donated to the city of Port Alberni?
Thanks for the question, and through the chair, we're expecting delivery in August of the toilets. We've also put out some feelers to see if anybody could use them as directed, and we do have some interest. We'll be bringing a report to council before that time to make a decision on these robo-washrooms.
So just to follow up, would we generously donate them or would we sell them and make, because I know Nanaimo was interested at one time and they would be paying for them if they did.
Through the chair, we would entertain all options once we bring a report to council and get direction. But yes, that will be an option to either try and sell them for at least what the delivery charge is, or we've looked at other ways of installing them too that may bring the installation charges down, that we may want to use them. So again, we're going to look at all options again and bring it back to council before they're delivered.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any follow-up questions, you can move on to Johnson Road.
So, Madam Mayor, of course, there's been a lot of questions, especially on social media regarding Johnson Road. And although it's not it's a highway, but maybe we can get an update from our CAO regarding why did they dig up half the highway after, it was ready to be put together. I don't know. Maybe you can just give me an update on that.
Yeah, through the chair, there's many reasons why something may be dug up. And again, that would be a question for MOTI. They would be able to answer that better than I can, as the city was not involved in the construction or what materials or what had to happen at that crosswalk. So my understanding is that the full repair was complete, and it is just waiting now for the overhead traffic light. But again, I haven't got an update from MOTI, but I would encourage anybody that is interested in anything about the project on Johnson to reach out to them.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to follow up, the 16th, I'll be asking that question at the meeting that we'll be having shortly.
Thank you very much. Okay, seeing no other comments on that, we'll move on to question period. This is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions of council on decisions or recommendations made during the course of the meeting. Would any members of the public like to ask a question today? Okay, seeing none, would somebody like to move adjournment?
It's a motion to adjourn
right.
and go back into in camera, Madam Mayor. If
Thank
I could
you.
get that right.
Yes, motion to adjourn and go back in camera. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone.